Immersed Robot.
Hello everyone, welcome to Immersed Robot. So in this video I'm just playing a little bit of Microsoft Flight Simulator in my Quest 2 because, as some of you may know if you watched my last video, I've had to send my Valve Index headset back to Valve and we'll hopefully get a decent enough refurbished replacement from them. Just had a few small issues with it. There wasn't anything major, but I felt it was time just to go through that RMA process anyway. But so I'm running this on Airlink on my Quest 2, and it's a pretty nice experience, I've got to say. You can see I've got the Oculus Performance overlay there, so you can see that I'm running this with locked asynchronous space warp enabled, locking that frame rate to 40 FPS, interpolating it up to 80 Hz. And it's nice, it's a consistent 40. It will drop down occasionally, just a couple of frames, but not very often. And the image quality is very nice too. So I'll go into my settings in just a moment, but as I fly over Devon here, I think I'm still in Devon. I've been flying around for a little while here, so I could have gone into Cornwall now, I don't really know. This is the first time I've flown the FA-18, and it's nice. I generally stick with sort of the smaller aircraft, sort of the Cessnas and the Robins and things like that. I just like those aircraft, but you can cover vast distances in this a lot easier than you can in those. And this is a really great experience. So the reason I generally still gravitate more towards my Valve Index when I have it is I do feel like overall image quality I can get it slightly better in the Valve Index, but considering this is completely wireless, I'm running on my Quest 2, this is a very close approximation to what I get in my Valve Index anyway. And of course I generally lock my Valve Index to 40 FPS as well, and still going up to that, relying on reprojection, leaning on reprojection in SteamVR to interpolate it up to 80 Hz, exactly the same way as I'm doing in the Quest 2 right now. So let me just go into my settings, and basically there's not a lot to tell. So if we go in here, I'm generally running it on the default settings. I have lowered a few other things down, but you can see I've got the render scaling on 80% there, which is generally what it defaults to on VR. For some reason, it did seem to default to 100 when I went in there, but that might be because I'd changed that previously. I wasn't too sure on that. But anyway, it's on 80 now, still gives a nice sharp image. I do tend to increase that when I'm using the Valve Index, but I'm able to do that through Performance Headroom. By using the Quest 2 and Link, it does use more resources on the PC side of things just to encode and decode that video. So that's the reason I do that. And then generally everything else is on default. I've lowered a terrain level of detail down slightly, but it didn't really have too much of an effect. I am running anti-aliasing, temporal anti-aliasing on this, and I tend to prefer that in the Quest 2 based on what I've seen here. If I turn temporal anti-aliasing on, then the shimmering effect is just too much even for me. As somebody who tends to prefer that sharper image than any kind of anti-aliasing, but no, this still looks pretty sharp and there is no shimmering at all really. So it's a nice experience on the Quest 2, it's got to be said. So let me just go in, and I'm just going to flip around and try a different aircraft just to make sure we can maintain this performance, which I suspect we will. This is probably a more intensely demanding on performance aircraft than something like the Cessna or the Robin or something like that. So let's go in, change an aircraft, come back to this location. Okay, so here we are back in the Robin now, just flying over the Eden project. And it's in the same location, the same general location as I was before, and you can see we're still hitting those 40 FPS. I will say actually it seems slightly lower performance than the FA-18, but that's okay. It's still generally locking that to the 40 FPS anyway. Just feels like the performance headroom is not as high, that's all. But again, this is a really nice experience. So I would probably say that overall image quality is very close to the Valve Index. overall experience is very close to the Valve Index, and so really there's not a lot in it, I've got to say. I think it's just more the fact that I can push things a little bit higher in terms of settings on my Index than I can on the Quest 2 due to the extra demand on the PC really, but you know, there's very little in it. I think you still get that slight haze of the video encoding, even with that link sharpening and all the other little tricks that they do. There is still that video encoding haze that you get with the Quest 2 using Airlink or Link. It's not that bad though, really. It's not really enough to worth worrying about. And on every video like this as well, we'll probably get a comment about how 40 FPS is not enough for VR. You can't play VR at 40 FPS, and I just think that in certain titles like this, it's almost a necessity. You have to play 40 FPS and lean on the software technology such as asynchronous spacewalk and reprojection in order to give you a nice stable experience. It's not ideal, but with a game simulator like this, you have to do it, and that's just all there is to it at this moment in time. You can't really play at native frame rates, and unless there are situations, if you go in very remote locations, I have got this title running at 80 frames per second native occasionally, but even then it's not a absolutely locked stable, and maybe that will come with further optimizations and things like that. It's a different title now than when it first launched, and you can get a nice stable experience in these. And of course it all comes down to as well the stuff that Valve have done with Steam VR. Not so much when I'm playing on the Quest 2, but when I'm playing with my Valve Index and relying on Steam VR, locking frame rate to 40 is invaluable in this. But anyway, that was just a quick look. I thought I'd jump back into Microsoft Flight Simulator while I'm sort of relying on my Quest 2, because I haven't really done a lot in Microsoft Flight Simulator with the Quest, and because I've always just had my Valve Index around, there wasn't any need to really. But using it in this way, it's not, you know, it's so comparable that there's not a lot in it really. But that's pretty much it from me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Please consider picking up my science fiction virtual reality focused novel, The Memory Engine, a light-hearted tongue-in-cheek adventure through the metaverse, available on Amazon Kindle, paperback and as an Audible audiobook. Links in the description to this video.